Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You've got Darren Little here with the Success Vortex, where positivity meets. And guys, all I can tell you is this. You better have a pen and paper handy, and you better get ready to buckle up, because tonight we've got a really, really special treat. And I want to first of all just turn back the clock a little bit here, guys, and I want to share with you that one of the things that I believe is really, really important as you go through your own evolution on your path to success is that you give credit where credit is due. And that's back to your mentors. And over the course of my own career, I worked with Tony Robbins, Dr. Lee Poulos, but my defining moment, guys, the little tiny tweak that I needed was when I worked with Dr. Dov Baron with Baron Mastery Institute. And this was really the next level of the launch. Once I really understood the power of the mind, the power of quantum physics, how exactly do we create our own realities? How do we manifest anything that we want? Anything that we want. So it's my pleasure and treat today to introduce you to Dr. Dov Baron. Dov, thanks a lot for joining us on this exclusive and private interview.
Thanks, Darren. Great to be here. I'm excited to be here, and we're going to get into some meaty stuff. And thank you for your kind introduction. I remember very well when you worked with us at our company. Baron Mastery, of course, no longer exists. Back in those days, but you were an integral part of that. And interestingly enough, the name, the packaging of one of my products, which is the Equation for Manifestation, was your idea. You came up with the packaging of how that would be delivered. So it was your great marketing mind that came up with that.
Fantastic. You know, Dov, what I really want for people to really understand is that, because I get people that, I'm sure you probably get this, people that ask you this too. And really in the back of their mind, like, is this real? Is quantum physics really real? But before we get into that, what I want you to do is just maybe share with our viewers a little bit about your background, where you came from, and what really made you an expert, a world-renowned expert in this topic of the equation for manifestation.
Well, where I came from, you know, we don't. I can do the whole backstory of this an hour on its own, but we're not going to do that. But where I came from was actually I was born in a ghetto in northern England, in extreme poverty, surrounded by violence, crime, poverty. It was not a pleasant place to be from. And you know, every one of us in our lives have turning points, and whether we realize them at the time or we realize them later, they were certainly there for me. There were many, but one of them was that when I was 10 years old, I walked into the living room and my mom was crying, and I didn't know why she was crying. And there was somebody on the TV, and I didn't recognize this gentleman. And I said, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "He's dead." And I looked over. The guy was not a movie star. He was not a pop star. He wasn't from TV. I didn't know him. So I was like, "Who is this?" And of course, it was Martin Luther King, and he'd just been shot. And I remember being fascinated by how this black man in America was impacting my mother in the UK, a white woman. And I was fascinated by how can somebody have influence over that great distance who doesn't seem to be from the same world even. And I remember asking my wise uncle for some insights, and he told me about Martin Luther King, about Gandhi, and I became fascinated. Fast forward about 4 years, I'm sitting in the living room, being the weird kid that I was, watching documentaries while other kids were watching superhero movies. I was watching documentaries. I loved learning. And my mom came in while I was watching one, and she said, "What are you watching?" And it was this scenery. And this is a very important piece for all of you who want to understand manifestation. It was a movie that was about 40 minutes long, and all it was scenery. There was no words whatsoever. And it went through the 4 seasons, but over a period of 10 years in these people's lives. So it's this young couple meet, they fall in love, they have a child, and then you see the child growing up. And they were traveling across this country, which I genuinely thought at 14 years old was the USA. I now know it was Canada because the final scenes were the totem poles in Stanley Park. that I now recognize, but I didn't at the time. And my mom said to me, "What are you watching?" I said, "It's this." And she says, "Why are you watching that?" I said, "Because I'm going to live there." 14 years old. 14 years old. As a kid, living in this horrible place, and I would go down the pub with all my mates, and all the things that you do when you're in your late teens, if you're in the UK. And my mates would all sit around and moan and complain and whine, and oh, the weather's crap, and there's no jobs and all that. And I just kept saying, I'm leaving. And they kept saying, "Yeah, right, okay, mate, yeah, sure, we're all going to get out of here." But I was committed. And that's when I began my journey to travel around the world to study with all these great, great teachers from the background of metaphysical understanding, spiritual philosophy, quantum physics, and psychology at a very deep level. That journey forward was amazing until 1983, when a buddy of mine in Australia, when I was living in Aussie, was inviting me to go to a stag party in Melbourne, which was 3,000 kilometers away. So, okay, we get there, and it's a stag party, guys, and I'm in my 20s, so you can imagine what was going on. We've all had way too much to drink. We've all been out partying. We go back to the house, and back in those days, if you wanted to see porn, you had a reel, like a reel-to-reel, and a projector, and it was terrible. So they're all in the living room eating pizza and drinking beer. I sneak off. You see, earlier in the day, I'd been walking through Melbourne with my mate and had gone in this bookstore and found this book, which I opened and, honest to God, didn't understand. I understood the writing, but on the other side of every page was mathematics that I had no understanding of. But for some reason, I was fascinated by this book. So while they're all in the living room watching their porno stuff, I'm in the other room, and I'm like down by this lamp, looking down, reading, and they're coming like, "Where the hell is this guy?" They think I've got some good stuff. If I'm not watching that, I must have the good stuff. And what it was a book on quantum physics. It was Hugh Everett III's understanding of quantum physics and multiple reality. And it became a complete fixation for me, because everything that I'd learned in the deeper levels of psychology and everything I'd learned in mystical understanding, in a metaphysical understanding, suddenly had a science. And I was like, oh my God, this is, so I was like, that was it. I was hooked. I was so on fire with this, because everything that I believed that I was pissed off about because it seemed woo and didn't make sense, suddenly had this science. And that was where my obsession with quantum physics started in the early 80s, way before people were talking about what the bleep or talking about the secret schmeecret. This was like, this is the real stuff.
Wow. So Dov, let's sort of dive a little bit deeper into this, because I know that when I start talking about the equation for manifestation that I learned from you, and I share these strategies, guys, if you're just watching this, I want for you to really understand the impact of this. I want you to understand how profound this training has been for me in my reality. Okay, because when I first met Dov and we were working on this, the equation for manifestation and Baron Mastery Institute, that was really before a time where I really started to market on the internet. So using these strategies that he taught me, a lot of times what I do is I do coaching calls, and when I'm making my sales is when I'm actually teaching other people the formula. And using the strategy that he's going to share here, it's already generated just under $500,000 on the internet. So I want for you to really take some serious notes here, guys, because this could literally propel your business into like a rocket launcher to take you to the next level. But here's the one thing I want to sort of debunk right out of the gate, Dov, because a lot of people say, "Oh, come on, Darren, that's just a bunch of hocus pocus. Then what is that quantum physics stuff? Give me a break," right? Just get into a little bit about the actual science behind quantum physics, a little bit about the wave particle theory and how this all works.
Well, back in the day, we saw science before quantum physics. We had physics, and physics, in the traditional sense of understanding it, is down to the smallest particle. So we looked at atoms, and we tried to break open atoms. And when we broke open the atoms and we started to do that, we found that we had this subatomic, what we call the subatomic zoo. And that's what the scientific name was. It was, there was all these different kinds of particles. And Einstein actually was the one who put the theory forward. Actually, Einstein fought quantum physics, but he actually is the guy who built the pathway to it. And it wasn't until the Copenhagen meeting where it was all blown apart with Heisenberg and many of the other great quantum physicists who really had us understand it. Because one of the things that Einstein did was he said, when he put forward his special theory of relativity, which was about time and speed, and I won't go into that too much right this minute, but the thing that's cool is there was one set of scientists who said, when you break it all down, what you have are particles. They're just very, very, very small particles. And there was this whole, it was called quantum wave theory. These whole quantum physics guys who said, no, it's waves. It was like, okay, it's waves. No, it's particles. And here's what's fascinating. That research done at that time was running parallel. So there's a team over here who is researching and theorizing and doing all the stuff on to see that it's waves. And these guys over here are saying, no, it's definitely particles. And they're doing the research at exactly the same time. Here's what's fascinating, is they both came to their conclusion at exactly the same time. These guys said definitely particle. These guys said definitely wave. They both got exactly the result that they expected. So what that meant was, if I took the scientist from group A who thought particle and put him in group B who thought wave, when he looked down the microscope, guess what he saw? He saw particle. When the wave people looked down, they saw wave, even though it was on the other side. This became a fascinating argument because what they understood was that light, which when you break everything down is what everything is, it's light. Light can behave as particle and wave. So what we know about that is that wave responds to resonance. Now this is a whole other thing, and I wrote you can go find this book. It's called The Secret Beyond the Law of Attraction, which is the science of all this, which is the law of resonance. It's not new age woo-woo, and it's not the fluffy secret stuff. This is not sitting around and thinking good thoughts. This is understanding the science of it. And the simplest way to think of this is the analogy that I use all the time, which is, if in this hand I have a tuning fork and it's tuned to the note of D, and in this hand I have a tuning fork that's tuned to the note of C. If I ding this one, nothing happens to this one, because this is D and this is C. If in this hand I have a C and in this hand I have a C, and I ding this one, the other one starts to vibrate. That's called sympathetic resonance in music. Sympathetic resonance is how the universe works. So when frequencies are aligned, they actually build together. And frequency moves to the dominant energy, so the dominant force. So if whatever's the bigger energy, it's that dominates, and it pulls the other energy into it. That's where it gets very cool when you consider who you are and what you're trying to manifest. So I can go, Darren, I can go on for forever about the science of this, and I don't want to lose anybody in the mix of all this. So let's go to wherever you want to go to from there.
Well, what I want to really focus right now, Dov, on what's going on with the state of the economy. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people right now, talented people that have got engineering degrees, people that have got, they've spent 4, 5, 6, 7 years in university, that are finding themselves literally at a dead end like this, right? Like a roadblock.
Yeah.
And all their career, all that time that they've spent, they found now that their position has literally been eliminated from the marketplace. They don't have any work, right? And they're in a really interesting situation because they're finding themselves in what I call a spiral, a negative spiral, and they're in a rut. right? How can they get out? And how can they use quantum physics to be able to open up a gateway to manifest a brand new reality? So what do those people do? What are some of the things that they can do to literally draw a line in the sand and make a change?
So let's see. I'm happy to answer that, and it's a great question. But I want to say what not to do first. And what that is don't try positive thinking. It's a waste of time. Don't bother sitting around doing affirmations, going, I am wealthy, I am wealthy, I am wealthy. Meanwhile, putting your hand in your pocket and there's no money there, looking at your bank account and you're watching it go away. That doesn't work. That shit is just, it's too fluffy. It doesn't work. That's not where it is. That's actually not the quantum physics of manifestation. That's a nice idea that we'd all like to be true. And if wishes were true, then, you know, everybody would be driving, what is it you want to drive? What's the car you like? I forgot. I see pictures of it.
The Lamborghini.
The Lamborghini. Then everybody would be driving around a Lamborghini. So it's not about wishful thinking. It's much more than that. So yes, you're absolutely right. The world has changed, and we've got to grasp that the world has changed. We've really got to grasp that the world has changed. And when I say it's changed, it means that when you entered, let's pretend you're in your 40s or your 50s. When you entered school to learn something, you were looking at a future and a career. That future and career has changed because the workforce has changed. And one of the things that I taught for a long, long time in my program, Authentic Wealth Mastery, was this. Every qualification you need, you already have. You just have to know how to tap into it and how to direct it. How to direct it. So let me ask you this. How, just as a simple, Darren, how long did you go to university to become the MLM superhero?
I just went through the School of Hard Knocks.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know, you and I have had conversations about this. You understand that a lot of the shit that's gone down over the years has actually, over time, helped you to understand how to refine yourself, how to refine your behaviors, how to refine your emotions, and how to help other people based on what you've been through. Your life experience is what you have to grasp. And so the challenge with the traditional education and becoming, quote, an engineer or whatever it might be, is we tend to buy an identity and we say, this is who I am. I'm Fred and I'm an engineer. Horse crap. You're not just an engineer. There's so much more to you. The problem is you block your own field when you, meaning your quantum field, your personal emotional resonance field. You block that when you claim a single identity. So everything else, all the other opportunities, fly out of the window because you say, well, this is all I am. So now you're looking in the newspaper or wherever it is, you're looking online on jobs, monster.com, and you're going, looking for jobs under engineer. Well, guess what? That's one tiny facet of who you are. You're much bigger than that. And so there is a need for some inner work and going, okay, what else do I have? What are my hidden skills and hidden talents? What is my real ability? Some people's ability is, some people have this amazing ability. It's called, they can listen. It's a very rare one, but they actually can listen. They can actually shut the fuck up and listen to people and pay attention and go, oh, and all some of these people can do is go, oh, I get it. And it's like, oh my God, you're there for me. Like, what is your, like, you've got abilities beyond those crappy degrees, half of which are only useful as toilet paper if you run out now. So understanding that the old identity is the limitation of who you are, and that what you are is far greater than that. And when you open to that, when you say, what if I'm not this, then what else am I, begins to open up your field and open up opportunity in amazing ways.
You know, Dov, one of the things that I found, you know, coaching people through this process from, you know, where they are to where they want to go, is a lot to do with being able to surrender their pride and surrender their ego and just be coachable. can you cover a little bit about how that ego is just, that ego's a son of a bee, man. What that ego, I'll tell you what, it just takes us out of the game. But cover a little bit about that ego, and how holding on to that, you know, that old stuff really, not only does it hold us back, it actually sabotages us to get to that next level.
Well, as you know, this is a bit of a specialty for me, and understanding this, and work with. I now work with CEOs and entrepreneurs and people, helping them to really understand the power, negative power of the ego. So let's start here with saying, by the way, if you meet somebody who says, "I don't have an ego," run the away as fast as you can, because that person is a snake oil salesman, and they're going to be taking the money out of your wallet while smiling. Right? They're a sociopath, and you've got to stay away from them. Everybody has an ego. I have an ego, you have an ego, we all have an ego. It's not about whether you have one, it's about whether it's driving your bus or not. And for some of you, you got to kind of grab it and shove it in the trunk for a while and shut it the hell up for a bit. Eventually you can bring it into the back seat, and then maybe even into the passenger seat. But let me just explain what your ego is supposed to do first. Your ego is not a bad thing. It's important to have a healthy ego. Your ego is there to protect you, to keep you safe. And that's how it was designed. If you didn't have an ego, you'd walk out in the road and go, I wonder what it's like to get hit by a bus, and you'd get hit by a bus. But your ego brings up fear of getting hit by a bus and keeps you, it's not a bad thing. The problem is when it sees everything as a threat. So the ego's job is to keep you safe. Now, this is important, particularly for those of you who are now breaking out of the career world and going, okay, what's next? Because your ego is about keeping you safe. And here's the equation. Same equals safe. Write that down if you got a pen. Same equals safe to the ego. Same equals safe to the ego. So I've got a degree in engineering. I've done 15 years in engineer. I've got to keep looking at that. That's the only lens I can look through, because that's what kept me safe. Well, that may have been true, but that world is gone. It's an old paradigm. It doesn't work anymore. Same is safe is why, you know, you look around, you go, and you, of course, Darren, you won't know anything about this. You find yourself in a relationship with the same person with a new face. Right? You didn't do any of that, and I've never did any of that in my life either. So, you know, this is the understanding. It's because it's looking for the same, because it, and now you may go, what, but the same sucks. The same is painful. And the answer is yes, but it's predictable. So the ego says, I can manage this. It's shit, but I can manage it. It's okay. Whereas if we go down a different path, who knows what can happen? And it catastrophizes. So that's how it sabotages you, because it says, if you go here, you won't know, it will be uncertain, and it catastrophizes. Now, here's what's interesting, how to deal with the ego in this. It catastrophizes just enough to stop you, but it will never walk it all the way through the end. So you're going to be one of your people that you're working with, Darren, and you're going to give me one of the reasons why you can't. So you're one of the people you coach, and you're going to tell me why you can't take your program, why you can't use the equation for manifestation, why you can't look in a different way at the world, and you've got to keep going for your job.
Oh, okay. Well,
what is one of the ones you usually get? The classic stuff you get fired at you.
Typically, the three things that people think about, you know, if they're looking to leave their career, is I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, and I don't know anybody.
Right. So they say, okay, well, I don't have enough time to do this. Their ego is saying, stay within the framework. I don't have enough money, stay within the framework. I don't know anybody. Well, of course you don't. You don't get out there. How are you going to know anybody? It's not going to happen if you don't get out there. So here's the thing. When somebody comes at you with that stuff, and we all do it, when somebody comes at you with that stuff, that's saying, I have to keep things the same. It's got to stay the same. The truth of the matter is, if it stays the same, as you pointed out, that's that downward spiral. Because the same is actually not safe. The same would be safe if the world was not changing. But the world is evolving and changing every single day. Technology is evolving every single day. So we've got to embrace that things are not the same. They're never going to be the same. So what am I going to do to be, so again, playing with the ego now. So what am I going to be safe? Remember, the ego catastrophizes, but it never walks it all the way through. So it says, I don't have the money. If I put my money into this, I won't be able to pay the rent. So give me that one, and we'll walk that through.
Well, you know what, Dov? This business sounds really amazing, but I mean, I've only got enough money right now to pay my rent, and I just don't have any money to start a business with.
Okay, good. So what would happen if you did put the money in?
Well, then I might risk losing it, and then I won't be able to pay my rent, and then I'm going to get evicted. So I don't want to take that chance.
Good. Okay. So now what happens? Let's stay there. Don't run away from me, because that's where the ego stops. We're going to keep going. What happens if you get evicted?
Then I'd be homeless.
Then what'll happen? By the way, I'm homeless. Then what'll happen?
Then I'll be like out in the cold. If it's the winter time, I have no place, I have no shelter for me.
Okay. And then what would happen?
Then I'd be, I don't know. I'd probably have to go to a homeless shelter.
And then what would happen?
Well, I'd be dry.
You'd be what? You'd be dry. Yeah. Okay.
Right?
So, but then what would happen? You're in the homeless shelter, you're dry. Then what would happen?
Well, I'd probably make more money and then get another place.
You see, that's what happens with the ego. It doesn't go all the way to the end. When we take it all the way to the end, there's a turnaround point. There's a point where, and this is my language, and for those of you who don't swear, cover your virgin ears, because here's the thing. You're listening to this, and you might even, it's possible, you're having a few aha moments, and you might have even scribbled some notes as with those aha moments. Let me just fill you in. Aha moments are worth nothing. Aha moments are worth the hole in the donut. Who gives a shit? It's just something for you to brag about. Oh, I had this great insight. And now you start telling people about quantum physics because you had an insight into it. Who cares? Aha moments don't matter at all. Let me tell you what matters. Fuck it moments matter. The moment when you go, fuck it, I can't do this anymore. You see, when you get to that homeless shelter, you go, fuck it, this is it. I can't do this anymore. I got to turn things around. And the thing is that human beings are motivated by fuck it moments. For you, Darren, there was the ones in your life. You know that. You and I have talked about that. Where you go, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. I've repeated this cycle too many times. It's too damn painful. And that's when you change. That's when you have what it takes. That's when all the emotion and the power is there. And it's not trying to be passionate about shit. It's like, I'm in too much pain. It's got to change. Because you get it. And when you walk it all the way through, whatever your excuses are for not doing what you need to do to step into a business, to do whatever it is, to be an entrepreneur, to whatever it is, if you play around in that midfield of, oh, well, this could happen, that could happen, take it all the way through. Nobody's going to die, but what's going to happen is there's going to be that turning point where you're going to go. And so the cool thing about that is you don't have to wait for devastation for a fuck it moment. You can actually manifest one. You can manufacture one in your head and go, okay, so I know even if I ended up in the homeless shelter, guess what I ended up doing? I ended up trying to make money so that I could start a business with Darren. That's what it actually do. So why the hell wait until wait until you're living on the street and end up in a homeless shelter? Why don't you just do that now? Because the truth is, if you can't afford it, you have to do it. Money is the worst excuse in the universe. It's the worst excuse. It's the crappiest excuse, because if you can't afford something that is going to improve the quality of your life, you can't afford not to do it. I don't care what it is. Whether, and people pay me a lot of money to work with me, and I hear it all the time. They say, well, I can't afford to work with you. And my first answer is, that's a lie. That's a lie. It's just not painful enough yet. Because when it is, you will find the money by whatever means to do what it takes, because we all know we've spent money we don't have. And some of us have spent it on some stupid shit that just came along. But when we're like in pain, it's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And that's not just with money, it's with anything. I'm going to do whatever it takes. If somebody came to one of your clients and said, and you said to them, okay, you need to put $5,000 into the business, they go, I don't have that. And the next day, somebody came to them and said, listen, your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your kid, whatever it is sick. You got to come up with $5,000 by tomorrow. They'd come up with $5,000 sure enough. So what's the difference? The difference is how important, how much emotional energy is involved. That's what changes us. That's what directs us.
You know, it's really interesting that you bring that up, Dov, because, you know, I actually had somebody that reached out to me on Facebook, and they said, Darren, why is it that some of the most incredible, life-changing stories that you talk about from your students are people that lost it all, that were completely homeless, right? That had nowhere to turn, nowhere to go, that lost their job, that lost they got a divorce, their husband or wife died. It's that moment that you're talking about. It's that emotion behind, that drive that puts them into action, that gets them into liftoff, that gets them into that forward momentum. And the interesting thing is that if somebody is in their comfort zone, why would they want to change, right? It's not painful enough for them to change. So they stay stuck. They don't take any action. They don't do anything, right? So it's very interesting because people actually send me notes on that. Like, because some of the stories are people that have been completely homeless.
Yep.
6 months later, they made $20,000. And 3 years later, they started their own network marketing company. The homeless guy, right? Those type of transformational stories. And that's that point that you're talking about right now, as you're explaining that fuck it moment where you draw a line in the sand and you say, I will no longer accept this in my reality any longer, right? So, you know, Dov, what I want to do is I want to give people some actual strategies that they can start to implement into their life to be able to get the things that they want, right? Whether it's get the relationship that they want, to be able to get the new car that they want, the new job that they want. I mean, I know that some of your students that have gone through the equation for manifestation and implemented this program, this training that you have put together, they have like miraculous results of being able to sell their home on a certain day or get a certain amount of money come in, just miraculous things that a lot of people would go, oh, come on, that could never happen. Maybe just share with the people here, what are some of those exact strategies and steps that they would need to take for them to be able to identify something that they want and bring it into manifestation? How does that work?
Well, the process is the equation for manifestation, and I'm happy to walk through that. I will, but again, this is not just a mental exercise. You know, you mentioned the lady who got the house, and I'll just quickly tell that story for everybody. This is a lady who came to me and she said, I've seen this house, I want to buy it, but I have no idea how I'm going to manifest it. And I said, what do you mean? And she says, well, I saw the house, you know, but it's way outside of my budget. So I went to the mortgage broker. I can't get a mortgage for that. So it's not going to happen. I said, here's what I want you to do. Apply the equation for manifestation, but with a proviso. And we talked about the proviso, which was pain, as we were just talking about. And so she did that. And she came back to me a week later. She said, I got down, and she was dead excited, really excited. I think you might remember her, Anne. And she was so excited. And I said, what happened? She goes, I got the house. And I said, I thought it was too much money and you couldn't get a mortgage. She goes, it was. And I said, what happened? She goes, I went to the house. I knew I couldn't get the mortgage. She says, but I put an offer on the house that was way below. Now, for those of you who don't know, Darren and I live in a little city called Vancouver, which has the most insane housing prices in the world, and where people put their house up for sale and they put it up at the price they want, but nobody buys it at the price they want. You get 6 or 7 offers above the price you're asking. It's nuts. And that's exactly what happened for this. So this house went on sale. This lady we're talking about went in and put in an offer that was way lower, because that was the maximum that she could get from a mortgage. She met the owners on the day that she went in and got talking to them. She comes to me and she says, I got the house. I said, well, how did it happen? You couldn't get the mortgage? She goes, no. I said, what happened? She says, they took my offer and there was 4 offers that were bigger than mine. And I said, why did they take your offer? She said, I asked them. And all they said was, we just knew we wanted to pass our house on to you. This is our family home. We wanted to put it with you. And the money didn't matter that much. And I said, how possible was that last week? She said, that was impossible last week. This week, it's a reality. So now let me walk you through what she did. She applied the equation for manifestation, but her starting point was to go to the pain, whatever that pain was, of not having that house, so that she had the internal fuck it moment and going, I have to have this. This has got to happen. And here's why. And so it was a house that she was going to help her daughter to get into a different situation than she was in. She wanted to help her. She could see the negativity and the pain if her daughter didn't get into this, and that would impact her granddaughter, et cetera, et cetera. And she got really connected to the pain of if she didn't make this happen. Then she went the other way, which is what you have to do. So as I say, you have to have the fire on your ass, that's the pain, and your eye on the goal, which is the joy. You got to have both. And so then she went the other way, and I said, now let's go to what happens if you do get it. And she saw, you know, all the things you can imagine for her daughter living in this great house, that she was safe, her granddaughter would be really safe, the bond and the connection between all this family and how they would come together. And she went to a Christmas and what Christmas would be like, what it had never been like. And she created this, and she was like, and she did this, by the way, 3 times a day. And within a week, she had that house. Within a week. But it wasn't wishful thinking. It wasn't writing it down and going, I'm going to manifest this. It was connecting to the power, the depth of those 2 emotions, which is pain and pleasure. Tying those 2 together and using the focus to get them.
So Dov, you know, I know that you know, you've got some you know, like a whole spectrum of sort of you know, followers, customers, clientele, corporate, CEOs, people from really all walks of life.
Yeah.
Strategies work for anyone? Could anybody, no matter how old they are, be able to take these strategies from the equation for manifestation and be able to apply them and get exactly what they want in their life?
Is it applicable to anybody? Anybody who uses them. But this is the key. Then this is where, so I don't want to pull the wool over everybody's eyes. This is not snake oil sales. This is not, you know, use this and everything will be wonderful. It works for anybody who works it. It's that simple. So I can give you, you know, I can give you a strategy for making $1 million in a year. And if you take that and you put it in your drawer, it isn't going to make $1 million a year. You have to apply it. But for those who apply it, absolutely it works. And here's the cool thing is, what I want you to understand, this is what's fascinating, is you, as you watch this right now, you are already a magnificent manifester. You are already manifesting every day, all day long. It's just unconscious. The distinction is, so you go, well, I don't know if I can do this. You're already doing it. The only distinction is to make this conscious. We're going to consciously manifest. That's the distinction. And so everybody's already doing it. And the interesting thing about it is you're already doing it even if you don't believe it. So it actually, the quantum field doesn't give a crap whether you believe in it or not. It actually doesn't care. You're just going to manifest anyway. That's all there is to it. So if you're walking around and saying, I'm always getting ripped off, guess what? You manifest. People always rip you off. If you're walking around going, all men are assholes and I always meet the assholes, well, guess what? Welcome to the asshole festival. That's what you manifest. If you, whatever it is that you're putting that out into the field with emotion, feeling, and intention, that's what you're already manifesting. The only distinction is to take it out of the random process of your mind and make it a focused process of your mind, because you're having around 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of those are repeated they're old, and most of those are negative. So you're just putting that nonsense out into the universe, and you go, I don't know why all this stuff happens to me. It isn't bad luck, folks. It isn't because God's got it in for you. It's because that's the tape that's running, plus the emotion, plus the feeling. That's what's going out into the universe over and over and over again, and you get whatever's in that process.
So Dov, I mean, let me just get this straight. So what you're saying to the people right now is that whatever's happening in their life right now, whatever is going on in their life, that they are actually manifesting this into their reality, even if it's terrible. Are they really doing that to themselves?
Yeah, so let me be clear on this. The answer is yes, but before I sound like a complete discompassionate a-hole, I want you to understand you are. And I mean that with deep compassion. Because some of the stuff you're manifesting in your life is horrible. And maybe it's devastating even, like sickness or whatever it is. Yes, it's manifest, but it's not conscious. And a lot of it was implanted many, many years ago. But it is your manifestation. And as painful as that can be to own when you look at your life and you go, you know, I'm struggling financially, or my health, or whatever it is, you know, or relationally, until you grasp that, until you actually grasp, I'm the creator of this reality. You can't create anything else. Because the interesting thing is, the universe doesn't care. The quantum field doesn't care. The quantum field doesn't judge whether it's crap or great. It just follows the instructions. I described it many times as a vending machine. If you put the dollar in and you press the Coke button, it doesn't give you 7-Up. It's just that you press that button. The machine doesn't care. The quantum field doesn't care. So please understand, you are the creator of your reality. And I know that that can really suck and be hard to swallow, because then you go, oh, well, I'm sure I didn't manifest this terrible illness. Yeah, you did. You just didn't do it consciously. And only when you grasp, okay, the possibility, what if I was part of that? Then you can grasp the possibility, well, then I can be part of shifting it. I can be part of becoming dynamically healthy. I can become part of the ability to have phenomenal relationships, phenomenal wealth, phenomenal whatever it is that you're looking to have that is phenomenal.
So basically what you're saying, Dov, is that we can be manifesting not consciously, but unconsciously, based upon our childhood programming, based upon stuff that happened with our parents, and actually be manifesting things into our reality that could potentially be sickness, illness, could be a car accident, maybe even being crippled. I mean, those are all things that we're really doing to ourselves.
Well, let me instead of looking like the a-hole who's saying that you're doing this to you, let me make it personal. June, you know this, Darren. June 1990, I was highly successful, traveling the world, speaking in many different countries. I was on TV, radio, newspaper, magazines. I was having all kinds of great success. And then I also was an adrenaline junkie. And then at one particular June weekend, I went free climbing, which is climbing without ropes, up by Whistler, British Columbia. For those of you who don't know, that's where the Winter Olympics were. And reached for a rock that dislodged a bigger rock that hit me in the face and sent me hurtling down about 12 stories onto rock. Not gravel, not grass, boulders, and smashed me to pieces. If somebody had come to me in that moment where I'm laid there in pieces and said, you manifest this, with whatever strength I had, I would have kicked them in the nuts, because it's a discompassionate response. That's a terrible thing to say to somebody. However, I had to, and it's not like I didn't understand this before, but I grasped, yeah, I manifest this. Now I have to look at, why did I manifest it, and what do I want to manifest instead? Yes, I manifest that. I'm responsible for that. And what I will tell you is, at the time of it happening, it was the worst thing of my life. However, Once I got clarity on it, it became the best thing that had ever happened to me up until that moment in my life. Now let's bring it to contemporary times. I joked and said I'm homeless. It wasn't a joke. I am homeless. Where I am right now is not my home. I'm in a fully furnished rental apartment in downtown Vancouver. Lovely place, penthouse view of the mountains, city views, very, very awesome. However, I used to live in a 5-bedroom house that went up in flames about 3 weeks ago. So we have no home, we have no stuff. None of my computers, my equipment, doing this on a laptop, very much not like me. I like all my stuff nice and professional. Suddenly, that's all gone. Did you manifest that, Dove? Well, I don't know if I manifested it, but I know we did, being my wife and I. Here's the clue. The fire happened on a Sunday morning at 10 to 6. That's when the smoke alarms got us out of bed. Saturday, my wife and I are in the garage moving all the summer stuff to the back and the winter stuff to the front. And we're talking about where things are going to go. And I said, well, this is just until we move. And my wife says, hope it doesn't take us as long to move this time. Do you still want to move? And I said, yeah, we really got to get on that, huh? 10 to 6 the next morning, we were moved. Very permanently. Very permanently. You're gone. You're out of here.
So Dov, let me ask you this, because people are saying to themselves, okay, so this whole concept of manifestation, I got to start taking responsibility for my thoughts, words, and emotions. I got to start to own the fact that whatever's going on in my life, I'm creating that reality. What does a person do to start creating the reality that they want? Anything that they want. What's the first thing that they have to do to say, okay, I'm getting that, I'm doing it, and go? What are the couple of things that they need to do to take action to start having those things show up in their reality?
And I appreciate you asking it. And it's a very normal question, but there's a fault in the questioning. And I want to explain why. Because you say, what do people have to do to get what they want? You have to know what you want. That's the first step. You see, the fault in the questioning is there's a presumption that people know what they want. Here's the deal, Darren. You know this. You coach people all the time. Ask people what they want. What's most people's response? More money. Well, here's a quarter. Congratulations, you got more money. It's too vague. So the number one thing to do to start is you got to get specific. You want more money? Here's a penny. You've got more money. Or do you want $10,000 a month? That's a very different manifestation. That's a very different emotional focus than I want more money. See, the number one thing is to get very specific. Somebody says, I want a good man. God almighty, could you get a little more vague? Like, get specific. What is a good man? What is a good woman? What does that actually mean to you? Do you have it down in details? I remember doing this exercise with you and saying, okay, let's get really clear. Who is she? Details. What does she look like? What does she smell like? What does she sound like? How tall is she? How short is she? What does she believe in? What are her fundamental values? What is important to her? Like, you got to get the details, but we're all vague. And so we go, oh, it didn't manifest. What? What didn't manifest? Nothing manifests if you go vague. Let's go to a restaurant. What do you want to eat? Food. Oh, okay. Are you going to be satisfied with what they bring you? Probably not. Because, you go in a restaurant, you say, what do you want? I don't know, I'm hungry. Give me some food. I bring you a steak and you're upset because you're a vegetarian. Whose fault is it? Mine because I delivered a steak? Or yours because you were not specific? The number one place to start is you have to get absolute clarity. Write it down. Get an imagery of it. Talk to somebody. Some of us are internal processes and we like to vision and we'll write it out. That's good. Some of us are external processes. We need vision boards. We need to talk to a mentor or a coach or a best friend or a group and be able to share the vision of what it is. And then, and as we do that, it gets bigger and it gets better and it gets more exciting. Great. Whatever works for you, but you gotta be specific. And when you think you're specific, here's the deal. You're not. Go deeper, get more specific. Whatever you think it is, go more specific. Test it out. Because once it's that clear, it shows up. And it shows up at lightning speed.
So basically what you're saying is that once a person can get extremely specific and tooled down and down and down and down, they start to get emotionally connected to that thing that they start to describe more, and it starts to become part of the resonant frequency that is increasing in their body. They're almost like a temperature starting to go up in their body to start sending out a broadcast. Is that kind of how it's working?
Remember I said energy moves to the dominant frequency. So the clearer you are, so think of it like this. Think of it as, you know, you move through the dial on an old radio, and I realize many people won't remember this, but you move through the dials and you get that, and then you hit a station. You know, and then you hear the Eagles or you hear whatever it is, and you know, and then you go through again until you hit another one. Well, what you're doing when you're not specific is you're in the, so everything's getting broken up. When you get really specific, so if your radio station you want to hear is 95.3, 95.2 won't do it. 95.4 won't do it. It's 95.3. That's where you got to be. So what that does is that pulls your resonant frequency to that frequency. Now, remember, frequency aligns. So what that means is, remember D, so this tuning fork, it's a D. It can't set off the other D. It cannot set off a C. It can only set off another D. If it's not showing up, you're still not in frequency with what it is you want. And the only thing around that is clarity. And if you say to me, I'm really clear, I want it, then there is a contradictory frequency. This is called frequency interference. And the contradictory frequency is fear. So you go, I'm really clear, I got it, I want this, and this, and it hasn't showed up. Why not, Doug? What's the fear? And then you go deeper into the fear and you go, oh, that's canceling the wave, because it's a wave frequency. If I cancel that wave with fear, then it doesn't manifest. So I got to get rid of the fear as well. But the first thing is clarity of the thing, because that is what then, because it's thought plus emotion plus feeling creates the resonance that broadcasts out into the field. And of course, all this is part of the equation for manifestation. We'll explain it with much greater clarity. But thought plus emotion creates feeling, and feeling is what impacts the quantum field. When that goes out with absolute clarity, that's what shows up every time. And the problem is, what most people have thoughts, emotions, and feelings about is their fear. So they manifest more of that crap.
Oh, guys, I hope you heard that, guys. I hope you heard that when you're listening to this right now. What Dobbs really getting into about the equation for manifestation and this thought-directed emotion generating feeling, most people are actually emotionally connected to their fear that's going out. So guess what's showing up? Their fear is coming in their face like this. All these different events, all these circumstances are showing up, and they wonder why. Because that's what they're manifesting. That's the reality that they're creating for themselves using the equation for manifestation on the other side, right? So one side, you've got everything you want. Another side, you've got everything that you don't want. And they're both going at the same time. They're two parallel worlds, two parallel realities.
And remembering the universe doesn't care. The universe hasn't got a judgment on it as good or bad. It's just reading the frequency. So if what you're putting out there is totally clear about the shit you don't want, it just reads that as that's the order. It doesn't hear don't want. It's okay. That's the picture. I got it. Okay, here you go.
Wow.
You're a magnificent manifester.
So, Dov, what can a person actually do? Okay, so let's say as an example that, I just lost my job. I just been in a car accident. I just broke up with my girlfriend and I got 2 broken legs. Like, what can I do to actually start?
Are you writing country music? Wow, that's a hit, man. That's a hit song.
I got a bottle in my hand. What can I do, Dov, to be able to raise my vibration, to raise my frequency so that I can start to get on the positive path to start manifesting what I do want? What can I do to raise that resonance in my body that's going out in the broadcast?
The very first thing I would say to you, the very first thing you can do is to look at your life and understand this. Again, I'm the manifester of my reality. This has shown up. Okay, so you can go into the depths of the psychology of it. You can get some good therapy, and I encourage you to do so. But what I'm saying to you first and foremost is to have the beginning, that's all it is. It's not the end, the beginning of the psychological shift to say, what if this is for my greater good? So my girlfriend left me. What if this was a disaster waiting to happen? The dog ran off. What if that's a good thing? There's this wonderful Middle Eastern story of the man who has only one horse and a wife and a son, and he's very poor. And one day, he makes his money with this horse, and one day the horse bolts the gate and runs off. And all the people in the village say, "Oh, it's so terrible, so sad, unfortunate. I don't know how you're going to live now. It's so sad." And he says, maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. Maybe it's good. And the very next day, the horse comes back, but it brings with it a team of horses. And they go, "Oh, you're so lucky. This is so wonderful." And he goes, "Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. Don't know." And the next day, his son gets out and he gets on one of the wild horses and decides he's going to tame it. And the horse throws him and he breaks his leg. And the people of the village say, "Oh, this is terrible. This is such bad luck. You've had such bad luck." He goes, "Maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. I don't know." And the following day, a roaming army comes through and takes all the boys who are fighting age, but they can't take his son because he has a broken leg. And everybody says, "You're so lucky." What's the difference? The same shit happened. What's the difference? So you have to grasp this concept of, again, I'm the manifester of my reality. I can like what I've manifested or not like it, but let me put that to the side for a moment and say, I manifest it for a reason. I wonder what the positive reason might be. What could that be? That begins to shift your emotional content around a thing. And you go, all right, what about that? See, I don't know how much people know about you. I'm always willing to share me, and I don't have anything that I'll hold back. But you and I know about the situation with your son, and I know how close you are to him now. But that wasn't always the case. You had to go through a lot of hell and high water to have that happen, right? And I remember the pain and the tears and the suffering that you had.
Yes, absolutely.
But all that had to happen so that you could have the quality of relationship where your son sits next to you in your car as you drive and says, "Dad, this is really cool." And he looks at you with that awe that you dreamed of that was made impossible before. And you go, "Well, why is all this shit happening?" Well, maybe it's happening so that all this wonderful stuff could happen. That's the shift. And it's just allowing yourself the consideration, the possibility, nothing more. We're not doing airy-fairy. The consideration, the possibility that it's possible that I've manifested this for a reason beyond what I can presently see. I've manifested this house fire, massively inconvenient, standing out in the cold in minus freezing degrees for 4 hours, no stuff, everything's gone. Wonder what's great about this. Doesn't feel great. Seems terrible, but wonder what's great about it. Wonder what this is surely something fresh. Cool. I wonder what it is. And immediately I can't stay in that downward vortex of energy. I can't stay in that downward spiral. And I can go, well, okay, so what if this has cleared the ground for me so that I can say, well, what do I really want? That's the shift.
So, you know, the two words that I really got from this is great, Doc. I really appreciate this. You know, the two words that I got from this, guys, is, you know, what if this is for my greater good? Okay, guys, look, I get, as I'm saying this, through this, I got goosebumps all the way across my arms as I'm talking about this, because that is the truth. When that happens, guys, and you get those goosebumps coming out of your body, that means that you've tapped into the truth of really what the real deal is. So you got to really ask yourself this question. When things are going not good, maybe tragic, maybe terrible, maybe like you're on the verge of even losing your life, right? You got to start to ask that question to yourself. What if this is actually for my greater good, right? And that will help to shift things to the next level and completely turn things around. Now, Dov, what I want to maybe just, we can touch on here really quickly just before we wrap up. You know, I know that right now you are, you know, you're a sought after speaker, corporations bring you in and, you know, pay you tens of thousands of dollars and higher. I don't even know what your full day rate is right now, but I think it's probably $40,000 or $50,000 to bring you in for a corporation, maybe even higher than that. Tell me a little bit about what you've specifically put together for the viewers, and you know, how they're going to be able to get that level and that quality of training that you provide to these CEOs and Fortune 500 companies that pay that massive dollars to be able to go through in a home study course.
Yeah, thanks for asking. What we've made available to you is two products that come together. One is EFM audio technology, and the other one is the Equation for Manifestation Home Study Program. Now, just to make it clear, and because confusion comes up, EFM stands for Equation for Manifestation. So one is EFM audio technology, and the other one is EFM Home Study. EFM Home Study is a box set of 5 DVDs. And this is high end. We went to a studio. We had a fabulous environment, audience, wonderful graphics. There's nothing, no handheld cameras. It's awesome. And it was originally designed to be, I think, 2 DVDs. It ended up being 5. And because there was so much more content that I had and wanted to share with people, understanding how manifestation works, understanding the science of it, et cetera, et cetera. But the extra 2 on the end were because it was like we threw it up to the audience and said, okay, what are you struggling with? What do you need to understand about this? Because it's a big concept. And we filmed all those questions and answers, and that was very powerful for people. And so we went, we should keep that because people loved it. That was part of it. So there's 5 DVDs, 5 CDs. Again, I walk you through the science of it, and I also demonstrate the equation for manifestation in 2 different environments. So with one person who wants to physically manifest something, so something tangible they can get their hands on, and somebody else who wanted to manifest something intangible, which was confidence. So 2 very different things, and using the equation for manifestation for manifesting both. And I walk you through that so you can fill that gap with whatever it is you want to do. In there is a whole bunch of products. There's a handbound journal. There's a workbook. There's also a bonus meditation. All those are in there as part of that package. Again, DVDs, awesome. The CDs from that, which are the other, so it got 5 CDs in it, it's the audio track, so you can listen to that in another environment, so you're not always stuck with just having to be in front of a screen. Then there is EFM audio technology. EFM audio technology is 4 CDs. The first CD is what we call the neutralizing frequency, and this took me a lot of work and a lot of design. It's 7 levels of frequency. Now, for those of you who understand metaphysical understanding, you'll know why it's 7. But there's 7 levels of frequency there to neutralize. And the purpose of that is to bring your brainwave function and to start canceling out the mind chatter that happens. So let me just tell you, sometimes people play CD1 and they go, I got a terrible headache. And I go, great. And they go, why? Because it's actually crashing that part of your mind down. And so it's overwhelming it. And keep using it and it goes away. And they go, it did. It did. What happened? Because you canceled and neutralized. Because you want to use that one first. CD2 is me walking you through the actual equation for manifestation so that you go from thought, emotion, feeling into the quantum field, connected deeply and focused on what you want, and you use that every single day. The other two CDs in there are very important because they are based on archetypical psychology. Most of us grew up with a dominant female and a dominant male. We call them mom and dad. So most of the original beliefs you got were beliefs you got from a man or a woman. And so we did these two CDs in that way, so that on one of them it's a female voice and on the other one it's a male voice. It's the same messages, but they're laid differently. And so that you could actually alternate one to the other. It speaks to the deeper subconscious mind. It gets into the archetypical psychology, the part of you that takes on that authoritative voice when you were a child, and allows those, when we call them proclamations. Now, there's a vast difference between a proclamation and an affirmation. Affirmations, remember we talked about it, I am wealthy, I am wealthy, I am wealthy. No, you're not, no, you're not, no, you're not. And your ego screams that at you, and it's right. However, we use the proclamations to evoke the emotion and the feeling in the process. And that's done with, there's great music behind it. There's also other layered in tracks with it. And we encourage you to do it standing up, preferably in a mirror. Now, I know the way I used to do it, which is I'd put the audio on and I'd drive, because it's not a meditation, it's active. And I drive, and people are looking at you on the side of the car going, this guy's crazy, because I'm like, to them, they can't hear what I'm saying. I'm like, like, clearly this guy's a maniac. But I would be so totally in the zone with that. So that's the 4 CDs in that. And again, there's a workbook in there that you go through, and that workbook is designed so that, because people say to me, because I said earlier, you say to people, what do you want? So that book was designed so that it actually starts you off at 10 years. And it gives you a way to look at, well, where do you want to be in 10 years? And if you're going to be there in 10, where are you going to be in 5? And you walk through that. You're going to be there in 5, where are you going to be in 2? You're going to be there in 2, where are you going to be in 1? You're going to be there in 1, where you're going to be in 6 months. You're going to be there in 6 months, where you're going to be in 3 months. Here, if you're going to be there in 3 months, what have you got to be manifesting in 1 month? So it always gives you the focus to focus on for each month, building up to a 10-year plan. It's awesome. In there is also a success journal to keep you on track with what it is you're doing. And there's a bonus CD in there to help you sleep deeply. And everybody puts that on and says, I had insomnia, but I can't make it to the end of that CD. Yeah, it's cool. So that's the 2 packages together. That's what's in there.
Fantastic. Guys, what I want for you to really understand here is a lot of people, they ask me, they say, Darren, what's your secret? What is your secret? How do you start these businesses and in 30 days get to 10,000, and 90 days have a $25,000 month, and 7 months come up and make $100,000? How's that possible? What is your secret sauce? Guys, this is it. This is the secret sauce. This is the thing that I use. This is the mentor. This is the guy that taught me all of this information to break through those limiting beliefs, speak the reality into existence with emotion and conviction, with the equation for manifestation. Now, what I'm going to share with you is this. Quite honestly, Dov did this as a personal favor for me and for the people on the team. Okay, I'll just be totally straight up, guys. Okay. Dov did this as a personal favor to me, to basically said, Darren, you know what? You just let me know. I want to help out. I want to do whatever I can, right? And so I said, well, it'd be great if we could, come up with both these products that people could actually go through them at, a price that they could afford. Guys, here's what I'm going to share with you. At the discounted price that Dov used to have when he was marketing these to the general public, okay? discounted price, okay? Not the regular price. I'm talking about the discounted price was $1,098. That was when it was at the rock bottom discount, okay? Now, what he did is he said, Darren, here's what I'm going to do, okay? Just to help you, okay? I'm going to drop it down to my cost. I'm going to drop it down to $439. That's basically our packaging, our production, all the filming and stuff that we had to go through to create all these products. I'm going to give it to you at our cost price, which is $439, guys, okay? That's 60% off their rock bottom price that they used to have. So he's basically taken his profit margin, he's wiped it out, and he's passed it on so that you people, you viewers right now, can be able to implement these two amazing products that I've gone through. This is my secret sauce guide. This is what I actually use to be able to start companies from nothing and raise, in some cases, tens of millions of dollars for my own ventures, for my own companies. So what I would encourage you to do is this. If you're a person right now that has literally reached that fuck it point where you say, I'm going to change my life no matter what, and that's it, period. If that's you, if you're ready for a personal breakthrough, if you're ready to take your life to the next level, if you're ready to start manifesting the reality of your dreams, guys, these two products are what are going to take you there. So what I would encourage you to do is this. Click the link below, guys, right? Click the link below. $439 is his hard cost that he's passing on to you so that you can get to your personal breakthrough. And Dov, I just want to say, you know, I really, truly appreciate for you to actually do that, just out of the goodness of your heart, just to help the people on my team. Seriously, I really mean that, because you didn't have to do that. And I just really, really appreciate you. You're just an amazing individual. You're an incredible mentor, and you've just had such an impact on my life, you know, my son's life, and the things that are happening for us now. So guys, I just want to you know, thank Dov here, you know, for taking the time. Thank you, Dov, for taking the time and spending with us today, and continued success in the future on all of your endeavors.
Well, thanks, mate. And I want to say thank you for inviting me to do this with you. I'm excited for people to get this. And I want you to know that actually, which you didn't mention, and because you may not even know, we produced a bunch of these in the last run. When they've sold out, I'm not reproducing this. I may have somebody who wants to buy the license to do it, but I won't be producing this anymore. So once they're actually done, and please, just in case you're thinking I'm making shit up here, that's just the truth. It's not part of what I offer anymore, so it's not going to be around. It's been a real pleasure being here. I've had fun talking about something. I don't do this, as you know, I don't do this because you said I get paid very nicely to go into companies and talk about what I talk about, and I don't do in this subject at all. It was great. I had a lot of fun with it, and I really want to stop for a minute and thank you, the viewer, person watching this, for taking the time to actually pay attention. The most valuable thing we say is time, but it's not. It's engagement of your time. And I hope that you were engaged. And if you weren't, and you get the opportunity to go back, go through it, I encourage you to take notes. I promise you, even if you took notes and you watch it back, you'll get what your ego filtered out, and you'll have to hear it again and work with what you got. Whether you buy the Equation for Manifestation from equationformanifestation.com or not, use what you got in this. Anything you can do to change your life around, to be who you want to be and have what you want to have, do it. Because here, let me tell you, the recipe for misery is saying you want something and not doing what you need to do, whatever it takes to get it. If you want to be miserable, just keep saying you want something and not doing what it takes. You're on this, you're watching this, because maybe you're on the brink of the fuck it moment, and you got to do what you got to do. And I want to thank Darren for facilitating that for you. You know, it's late in the evening for us. It's not convenient. that we took the time to do this for you. Pay attention. Make sure you reach out to Darren. Thank him, because without him, this wouldn't happen. People can't get my time. It's because of my relationship with Darren that this happened. So I want to thank you, Darren, and I want to thank each of you for tuning in and paying attention and giving us your engagement.
Fantastic. Guys, click the link below, take action, theequationformanifestation.com. There's a link right below this video. Thanks a lot for joining us on this exclusive and private broadcast, and have a great day.